This is after the funeral. Handy's gone to the funeral in LA and gone back to LA. And he knows good and well that he's going to have to go back anyway. He's fighting against himself. He's trying to pretend that it's all over and that he went to the funeral and RJ died, you know, as a result of a bad drug deal, just the way the cops say. But deep in his heart, he knows it's not true. For 3 days, I strove to go about my normal business, barely able to concentrate on the work I had before me. My distraction made mild annoyances out of things I usually have no quarrel with. Quincy's choice in music, the smell of oil and solvent that always lightly permeates my side of the shop, and heightened my awareness of the people entering and exiting my peripheral vision. For this reason, it was I who looked up first when two young bucks sauntered into the shop just before noon, moving with the leisurely pace and unsettling silence of encroaching death. But the younger boy, the one with the big hair and benign facial expression, had brought a distinctive aura into the shop along with his shadow, and I knew what it was even before the door had completely closed behind him. Quincy did too. He watched the pair slink around between his racks of precious videos for a full minute, Yankee Boy fingering through the cases as if he actually knew who the hell Fred Williamson was, then said, "Can I help you boys?" Asking the question in that way salespeople always do, when what they really want to know is, why the fuck did you pick my place to jack? "You just looking," the big kid said. His friend said nothing, but both of them continued to inch along their separate aisles, patiently and all too conspicuously working their way toward Quincy and the counter he stood behind, right beside the cash register. The boy with the afro was just slipping a long-barreled revolver out from under his jacket when I eased up behind him and jammed the snout of an old .38 Beretta to the back of his left ear. He and his older dog never saw me coming because they didn't think I could move that fast, or would care to even if I were somehow capable. They'd given me a passing glance at the door and seen little more than a sad-eyed, middle-aged black man with a salt and pepper beard sitting at a workbench, a meaningless screwdriver in his hand. I knew that was all they'd seen because that was the man I often saw myself, gazing out from the mirror while brushing my teeth, or reflected in the glass of a storefront window as I passed. I couldn't blame them for not expecting much. "Give me the gun, young blood," I said, and I made a point of saying it like something I only had the patience to say once. While he thought the order over and Quincy stood there staring at me in mute astonishment, I watched the larger boy to see how much killing was about to be forced upon me. If he was armed too and made a move to prove it, I'd have to shoot both boys in rapid succession. First the one near me, then his dark-skinned companion. Anything less would have been foolhardy. When the latter boy suddenly came unfrozen, bringing me within an inch of committing the double homicide I'd been contemplating, his only intent was to flee. He was at the shop's door and out of it in the time it takes most people to blink, his incredulous accomplice crying out his name in a senseless attempt to order his return. "Tommy!" But Tommy was good and gone. I finally snatched the revolver from the younger boy's hand while the shock of his abandonment was still setting in. And then it was just him and me and Quincy, and the .38 I continued to jam into the back of the kid's left ear. "Call 911, I said to Quincy. As my landlord slid to the phone on the wall behind him, I told the boy with all the hair to turn around and make sure he took his sweet damn time doing it. He did. I don't know what I was expecting to find on his face when he showed it to me. Fear, anger, amusement. But what I got resembled none of these things. What I got was a stare as vacant as a painless window in a gutted building. A little boy gazing at a television set tuned to a non-existent channel. I had a loaded gun aimed at his head, and the wild-eyed look of a man he might have just pushed close enough to the edge to use it. And he didn't care. I could do with him as I pleased. Whatever fate I chose for him now, he was willing to accept without question or quarrel. He was 14 years old at the most, and already life and death to him were but interchangeable, equally valueless sides of the same coin. At this particular moment in my own life, he could have cursed my mother in her grave and not enraged me more. Quincy had been stunned by the show of reckless bravado I just put on, without a doubt, but I knew it was the sight of the gun in my hand alone that he had found most incredible, because he had never seen me with such a weapon before. In truth, I'd had the Beretta in the shop with me for 4 days now, after not having touched it in almost 26 years. RJ's murder had changed the world for me in such a way that I preferred to have the gun close at hand over dying for the lack of it. Quincy would say later that God had spoken to me that morning 4 days ago, when I had gone up to the attic and withdrawn the Beretta from the old liquor bottle sack in which I had banished it. But I knew God had nothing to do with it. God would not have put that gun in my hand, knowing how close I would come to emptying it into the head of a child, whose most egregious crime was his resemblance to another young fool I once knew many years ago.